deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do. I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestor.
If you are black and you are watching this video, I have a question for you. First of all, welcome back to my YouTube space. Now, what do you need from the white people when we talk about apology? When we are saying that white people need to apologize for the atrocities that their ancestors need, what do you mean? Tell me on the comment section. Because in today's video, I'm going to react on this clip of this Asian lady who went for black people and he went too far. She went for black people and she went too far. She crossed the line. She surpassed the boundaries.
Deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do. I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestor.
Now, this lady is saying that she's tired of black people using their race on their advantage. White people should not apologize to black people for the things that their ancestors did because it is modern day. That's what she's saying. And personally, I should say that we don't need an apology.
And that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white. You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist police officer shoots me, right, and kills me, right? For you to be a white man and you see that and don't say anything about it, I believe that my community will be upset about that.
Dear white people, no one is asking you to apologize for your ancestors. We're asking you to dismantle the systems of oppression they built that you maintain and benefit from. Now the question becomes, do you understand how you maintain and benefit from these systems of oppression? You know, this reminds me of a meme I used to love. It said that particular people do not want to be blamed for their ancestors' actions, but they sure as hell don't want to let go what their ancestors left for them. If you inherit a business and you believe the profit is the only thing you taking on and you ain't taking on none of the debt, it's kind of crazy. Do you understand how trust and distribution of wealth and how we pass things from generation to generation? I don't understand why this concept is so hard to grasp. In closing though, nobody blaming you for nothing. We just think it's your responsibility to help us deconstruct the systems that you maintain and benefit from. Amen. Education is elevation.
We do not need an apology as blacks. What we need from you is for you to acknowledge and talk about the past. Acknowledge and talk about what happened. Is for you to understand the impact of slavery and racism. Is for you to support reparation. We have a number of things we want from you. We do not want an apology saying sorry. That will not help us. Now, this clip I'm going to play for you, but the clip was removed from social media. She was cancelled, but there is short clip I will play for you, and then I will play for you videos of some people reacting on that. Black people and the people of her race or her community reacting on her. And then we'll come back again, we talk about it.
Deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do. I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors. I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors enslaved.
Dude, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Stop trying to be a pick-me girl. You sound so stupid. What was it about that video that made you feel so It wasn't even about you. That video had nothing to do about the Asian community at all, and you felt the need to insert yourself in for why. Your opinions don't matter, okay? And on top, I don't understand why we can't just get along. I don't understand why you felt the need to say some shit. Listen, the sooner you start realizing that we're all very similar, the more you will understand that we are all allies for a reason.
Because I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time.
Hi guys, so I want to talk about this video piece by piece, point by point. Before I get into it, I'm going to be referencing white adjacency a lot. If you don't know what white adjacency is, then I would encourage you to check out this creator's lovely response to Olivia. The first thing Olivia does is talk about the use of bleach demons, insinuating that it's some type of slur for white people. One thing that's important to remember about slurs across all demographics is that there is historical context and violence behind it, something that this term lacks. The next thing that Olivia does is try to censor herself in the argument, asking, do you have a word for Asians as well? Do you have a word for black people as well? There is a word for both demographics. One for black people is the N-word, which was created by white people. One created for Asian people is a CH word that was also created by white people, specifically whenever there was an influx of Chinese immigrants. So yes, there are words to dehumanize Asian people, but they weren't created by black people. She then brings up the next point where she says that she's tired of black people using the race card because they were enslaved hundreds of years ago. Now, her use of hundreds of years ago is important. She's insinuating that racism stopped after slavery, as if we didn't get segregation, Jim Crow, police brutality, mass incarceration, gentrification, redlining, voter disenfranchisement. The list literally goes on. Next thing Olivia does is bring up the same old talking point that right-wing conservatives have. The idea that every culture had slaves. And I don't really understand this point because no one's arguing that every culture hasn't had slavery to some extent. I would just say that every single culture didn't have chattel slavery, nor did they have a racial caste system. Next thing Olivia does is bring up another right-wing conservative talking point. And I'm going to quote her now. And you know what the best part is? Native Africans kept slaves. They participated in the transatlantic slave trade. People bring this point up to say that, oh, well, even like black people were enslaving black people. But I think that people who bring this point up fail to realize that just because Africans have the same skin tone does not mean that they are all the same people. They are not a homogenous group. Not then and not now. This is where I get into Asian Americans having proximity to whiteness or adjacency to whiteness. Let me be clear that the only reason why the system of whiteness allows Asian Americans the benefits of white supremacy is because it is beneficial to the system of whiteness. It's called racial mascoting. You can get a demographic that was once heavily oppressed in the United States to say that racism doesn't exist. It makes other minorities look bad. Partially, I think that Asian Americans who hold this view know that their ties to white supremacy are incredibly fragile. It is again beneficial to keep Asian Americans on the side of the oppressor. Meanwhile, black people have gotten nothing like that. We never got reparations, and any time it's ever been brought up, it's been immediately shot down. You have to understand that just because you are no longer oppressed doesn't mean every other minority has that privilege. Let me be clear that whenever Asian Americans are no longer beneficial to the upholding of white supremacy, they will drop you too.
I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors enslaved mine.
As an Asian person, you cannot make an opinion on the black community and expect it to be respected. If you are not part of the community, don't talk about it. Just echo the voices or don't. That's it. Just because you're part of a marginalized community does not mean you can also talk over other marginalized communities. When you boggle down someone's entire position to them using the race card, you are just upholding the values of white supremacy. You're doing that. You're suggesting that race isn't a factor into how society treats people, denying systemic racism.
I'm tired of black people using the race card all.
I just want to say that obviously not every single Asian agrees with her or thinks that way, and I think stuff like this sets communities back. So here are some quick reminders that will set things into perspective. Black people did not drop nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Black people did not drop Agent Orange in Vietnam. Black people did not put Asian people in concentration camps. Black people did not sign off on the Chinese Exclusion Act. As a minority in America, I'm very thankful for the black community for their sacrifices they have made for pushing the civil rights for minorities. I am not an expert in politics or social policies. I'm just a tech bro software engineer, but I do think that this is a prime example of why education on minority issues such as slavery and systemic racism should be taught more in depth in classes. I think another problem is that education around American slavery and its impacts isn't really taught around the world. So I just want to emphasize one more time that education around minority issues needs a revamp, not just in the United States, but also around the world. Because the current education around this stuff is evidently not working, because there's people in power who believe that slavery benefited black people, which is insane.
Deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do.
Nothing in that woman video had anything to do with you or the Asian community. You want to know something funny? Every Asian person I know will tell you that Asian people are some of the most racist people you'll ever meet in your life because y'all are racist to each other. Why are you worried about what some black girl is saying about white people? It ain't got nothing to do with you. Mind your own business. And everything is like deeper than what y'all thinking. It amazes me that everybody just don't understand. We didn't even gave y'all a whole analogy. The analogy is Black people feel about slavery how white people feel about 9/11.
I'm done with you Asians who think having a race war with the black community is in our favor. No, it fucking is not. And y'all always want to bring up black people attacking Asians during the post-COVID era, which has happened a few times, but guess what, bitch? There are gonna be bad people in every race. Remember, anti-Asian is always rooted in white supremacy, but a person of any race can be influenced by white supremacy. So those black people that attacked us were subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that Asians caused COVID. And if you blame black people as a whole for the anti-Asian hate crimes, you're subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that black people are inherently aggressive. And y'all Asians who are like, why aren't black people standing with us? Bitch, be grateful because they've always stood with us. Frederick Douglass in 1882 made the time to openly denounce the Chinese Exclusion Act while the black community was going through so much, such as rampant lynchings against them. They worked hand in hand with us to free the Japanese people in the internment camps in 1942. And we directly benefited from black-led civil rights movements every single time. So stop blaming and demanding things from them and unlearn your anti-blackness first.
I'm tired of black people using the race card all.
And I'm tired of seeing the same people who benefited from our fight for civil rights using those freedoms to pursue white validation. But I'm going to focus on something else here, y'all. Instead of me reading her the way that I normally would, I'm going to break her down for y'all and give you a lesson in White Adjacency 101 because she's a prime example. So first and foremost, keep in mind that this is an Asian woman and don't think she didn't factor that in when she said what she said. She knows that we can't push back and say that she doesn't know marginalization or she doesn't know what it's like to be mistreated by white people because historically speaking, the Asian community does. But she's allowing herself to be a spokesperson, if you will, for white supremacy because that allows her to maintain her position within it, which is white adjacency, because there's power there. But the reason she can disconnect herself from her history in a way that we can't is because her present looks very different. Black people are still actively fighting the same history, which is why we have to keep it in the forefront of our minds. We can't allow ourselves to stop being diligent because history is constantly trying to repeat itself. But in her community, things have advanced to a place where she can feel audacious, clearly. If you think about it, that's probably true because when there's an influx of crime in the Asian community, what did we do? Stop Asian hate bill immediately. And I'm not saying that that shouldn't have happened. It should. But we don't see that type of quick action when it's black people. So she's coming from a place of privilege again, which stems from her white adjacency. And honestly, y'all, if you're paying attention, what she's doing is trying to conflate name calling with actual racism. Racism in this country is systemic, systems of oppression. They were built specifically to marginalize black people and then included people like her. She's talking about that in comparison to name calling white people. And don't think that she really cares about white people's feelings because she doesn't. She's saying this to secure her position within white supremacy because she's learned from her pale skin that there's power in being white adjacent. That's what she's protecting. And she's also highlighting her disregard for anybody else's experiences and also her lack of empathy, which again, I believe stems from white supremacy. She has this sense of entitlement about her that makes her feel validated in trying to reprimand or chastise us in our behavior. She thinks that we should play nice with our oppressor because the oppressors are no longer oppressing her the way that they used to, even though they're still treating us the same way. And if you notice, because there's a lot of layers here, she still has no empathy as far as how we're treated in the past or in the present. If you think about somebody and their traumas, right? You know that, let's say that somebody has a fear of dogs because they've been mauled by a dog. We expect them to be scared of dogs, to hate dogs, to not want to be around them. We don't get that same grace extended to us, even though we've had some of the worst atrocities committed against us by white people. Yet she sits here conflating feelings with systems. All we can do is hurt white people's feelings, but they can weaponize their feelings against us and use the systems created to hurt us. They can call the police, weaponize their tears and get us killed, get us fired. There's differences here. And that's what she's not saying. So y'all start paying attention to what's not being said because that's usually what speaks the most volumes.
Welcome back. Now, what do we need from black people? Do we need an apology? What do we need from white people? Do we need an apology? Yes, we need an apology. But how do we define this apology that we need from the white people? Some white brothers and sisters are good to us. Truth to be told, not all of them are bad. Some are good to us. But some of them are still practicing racism. Some of them are still practicing discrimination. Some of them see black people or other race as inferior. So we still have the traces of racism and discrimination or the past still lying in the bloods of some white people and affecting black people. So what we need from black people, number one, is for them to understand the impact of slavery and racism. Slavery was not just a past injustice. It is still effects even up to modern day. Up to now, still racism is in within us. The transatlantic slave trade and its economic benefits to Western nations, they need to understand that. They need to understand that the transatlantic slave trade benefited them. So what they are enjoying right now is because of the sweat and blood, or the blood of the slaves and the slaves of black people. They need to understand that. They need to understand that the enjoyment they enjoy right now, the quality education and health care they're enjoying right now, the economic stability of the country they're enjoying right now, is because of the blood of our ancestors. That's what we need them to understand. We need them to understand the Jim Crow law and segregation that followed slavery. Because you cannot apologize on something you do not understand. You cannot apologize on something you do not feel it. Take yourself on the shoes. The wealth gap that is between white people and black people is because of slavery. So, if you take yourself in these shoes, you will know how much you have benefited and how much the people suffered because of you. Now, you claim to love Jesus, okay? Let me tell you, Jesus died because of your sins. And up to now, you need to kneel down and praise Jesus because he died for your sins. So, for those who are Christians, I'm not saying all, for those who are Christians. So, black people died for your economic growth. Black people died for what you are enjoying. So you need to understand that. That is the first step that we need from the white people. We do not need just an apology. Another thing, we need you to understand the ongoing racial disparities in employment, policing, housing, and healthcare, because this is the systems that still racism runs deep into it. So we need you to understand that. If you understand that, then we are good to go. We are good to discuss. As a white person, you are good. If you understand that, you are good to tell your own people that, that's bad. Don't do that, because at least you understand. Because you have not gone through it, but understanding it's better. Number two, what do you need? What we black people, according to me, we need you to do is to acknowledge the past, or to acknowledge the talking about the past. Acknowledge and talk about what happened during that time. Because many people resist discussing about slavery, about racism. They resist discussing about colonialism because they feel guilty. But if you talk about it now, we know you understand. Now you are able to talk about it because you can feel what these people felt. Acknowledge the role of their ancestors to their countries played in slavery. What was the role of your Portuguese ancestors in this slavery? What was the role of the UK people in the slavery? What was the role of your American ancestors, Italian? What is the role of your French ancestors in slavery, colonization, and racism? You need to acknowledge and talk about the past. That's what we need. That's an apology we need. We need you to recognize how generational privilege has been built on systems that disadvantage black communities. We need you to recognize how you enjoy and black communities are still suffering. We need you to talk about that. Talk about that. We need you to engage in discussions without becoming defensive or sensitive or dismissive of lived experience. And by doing this is starting by understanding, and then you acknowledge and talk about it, and then after that you support reparative measures. What we need from the white people, supporting reparative measures. According to me, I think getting for policies that close racial wealth gaps such as housing assistance, student debt relief, and equal access to capital and black entrepreneurs. You need to acknowledge, you need to support. Reparation is one thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they are saying we were not there. It was our ancestors who did so. Why do we pay? It is not paying. You need to advocate for the policies, because when the white people or black people are going to the street protesting about police brutality, you need to be there. When black people are going out protesting because the health care system on them is too bad, you need to support that policies. Make the better. The housing relief, better. The debt relief, better for the black communities too. Because you as a white person, you are enjoying the sweat of these people. So you need to support the reparative motive. You need to donate to the organization of black people that provide scholarship, legal aid, and community support for black communities. You need to donate. Supporting reparative measures. It's not all about money. Because if you are telling me we'll give you money and don't talk about that, that is mocking me. You need to help us, encourage your government maybe on corporate accountability, supporting fair hiring, so that we can reduce the wealth gap between whites and blacks. Another thing you need to do as white people is slavery, is economic and social empowerment. When we say that, we talk about buying from black-owned business. We talk about investing in black startups and enterprise, supporting initiatives that increase home ownership among black people. So you need to confront modern racism because it is still happening up to now. Racism is happening up to now. You need to encouraging institutional change, implement inclusive hiring and promotion practices because there is a lot of inequalities in hiring, in wage payment, in employment, in companies. Still we have racism there. So we need to do that. Doing what? Encouraging institutional change. So by doing this, it is better than just apologizing by saying, I'm sorry, because apologizing in slavery is not just about the words. It's about the actions. And the things that I've mentioned out here, and the number of things I've mentioned out here, is the actions, talking about the past, understanding, supporting a reparative. That is the apology as black people, that black people need. If you're watching, tell me in the comment section if I'm right, because I just don't want to talk. I'm talking for the millions and millions of black people. I don't want to say something that you as black people, you are not supporting. That is my mind as a black person. I'm fighting and I'm educating. So if I've gone wrong, please tell me in the comment section. If what I'm talking is wrong, tell me in the comment section. Even if you are white and I've said something that you feel that it's not right, tell me there. We can debate. Now, I think this lady went too far by saying that, because if you are tired of black people using their race on their advantage, then stop racism. Do what I've just said. Support reparation. Then after doing all this, then we will continue complaining. You will say, okay, we tried. We did it. We stopped racism. We stopped this and this. But you are still continuing. That's where you can start complaining. But this lady, I think she does not have clue of what she's talking about. And that's why even her own community went on her. Black people, some of them answered her. It was terrible. Account, I think, was deleted because of these things, she said. And because we cannot accept apology, just word apology words, and we still have inequalities, we still have racism, we still have discrimination. You don't still understand. You don't even talk about it. You fear talking about racism. We cannot. So what we need to do is for you to follow these things. That's what all black people want. Understand racism. The lady wasn't right. I pity her understanding, but I think now she knows better. She needs to go back to class and learn about the history. Her people, the Asian people, were the first people it was Arabs, first people to enslave black people. Our ancestors are enjoying, or her people too are enjoying from the back of black people. The Asian Americans are enjoying from the back of black people. Around each and every person is enjoying because of the black people, the hardship of the black people. So just don't wake up and talk, okay? Tell me what you think in the comment section about that video. Until next episode, peace out.